Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice podcast. It is so great to be with you today. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist, an author, and the originator of the awareness integration theory. Our heartfelt chat is about what matters most in our life: our minds, our thoughts, feelings, actions, relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. For all of you beautiful souls that have been asking about my books and how to get involved with awareness integration theory, I want you to, if you're a coach or a therapist, I want you to know about our upcoming workshop that will be a part of the certification program. It's called The Essentials of the Awareness Integration Theory. It will be 3 days, February 10th, 11th, then 12th. You'll get 20 hours online. The course will be online. So anywhere else, from anywhere in the world that you can join us. We will be talking about the 9 principles and 6 interventions and multiple applications of the awareness integration theory. The early bird registration is January 20th. So don't wait. If you are in California and you're a marriage and family therapist, we do offer you a CEU from approved by CAMP, so you can join us definitely. Now go to awarenessintegration.com or Awareness Integration Institute at gmail.com and send me your interest, and I will send you the flyers and all the information. You can also just contact me via my own email, Foojan Zeine, and I will send you all of that, which it would help you to go ahead and be with us. I love to have you. We have many of the therapists and coaches who are being certified also being on the Foojan app, which will be launching in a couple of weeks, because Foojan app will take awareness integration and have the people who are using it go through the whole process. Most people might also need to have a little bit of a deeper work, and that's where therapists and coaches come along. And when you're certified, they can connect with you and for you to work deeper with them. Today, in this episode, I chat with Lindsay Sealey. Lindsay is a dedicated educator and consultant, a passionate keynote speaker, and the author of award-winning books, Growing Strong Girls and Rooted, Resilient, and Ready. She holds a bachelor's degree from Simon Fraser University on the west coast of Canada, and she has her master's degree in educational leadership from San Diego State University. She's currently pursuing mind-body lifestyle research. Lindsay is the founder of Bold New Girls and Brave New Boys, teaching and coaching designed to empower growing minds of all ages and with diverse experiences to be healthy, happy, and confident, and to become even more of who you choose to be. Lindsay is interested in integration of personal growth and academic success. You can find her at lindsaysealey.com. Today, we're going to talk about happiness, authenticity, how to be in your power and live there. And her latest book, which covers all of that, Made for More, a fresh start approach to a bolder and brighter you. Subscribe to my podcast, my YouTube channel, and connect with me through my website, foojanzeine.com, or any of my social media. Get my book, Life Reset, The Awareness Integration Path to the Life You Want, and share it with your friends. This is like a self-help book. They'll take you through the process. You can also, if you're a coach or a therapist, you could get Awareness Integration Therapy book, which takes you through the whole process and teaches you that. And if you are a parent or a teacher who works with children, get the intentional parenting that takes you also through the awareness integration theory on each stages of your child. Share with me. I love to hear from you and work with you and see what you're interested in so that I can share with you about that or bring guests who can also share about that with you. So without further ado, let's go and talk to Lindsay Sealey. welcome to the show, Lindsay, Sealey. It is so nice to have you all the way from Vancouver, Canada.
Thank you for having me.
So, I'd love to talk about your book, Made for More. And one of the beauty that I saw is that it starts from really looking at more or less, which is something that our brain usually does. It constantly goes into this comparative aspect of as if like being here and now is it's not enough or we're not content. So our brain does this game. And you kind of like went into the game and played with the game of, of find your more and less list and let's go play with it. So can you share with us how did you come up, like, why did you come up with that approach? How did you go looking at this approach into looking at all of these wonderful aspects like happiness and, gratitude and confidence and everything else that is going to boost us?
Thank you for saying it that way. I love that idea, or you picked up on that idea of playing around with the concept. I love words. So this idea of more and less and this balanced approach really appealed to me. But I think it probably began with maybe more of the negative aspect of the more, because I believe in our society and in the what culture teaches us is that we have to push really hard for more, more, more. So it's all about more money and achievements and accolades and more success and more status and more stuff. Like keep buying, keep pushing, keep, really overextending yourself, doing more in a day. And that couldn't be more the opposite of the message of this book. So I understand or understood that this is the world that we live in, is that push for more. And ultimately, I think what we're all doing is to prove that we matter. I want to live my life. And at the end of the day, I want to be a somebody. And that's good. As humans, we want to grow. Like that's a beautiful, natural, completely like organic process that I think is what makes us, enjoy this life. However, from my own experience and from the experience I have with working with young women, it's that the more can be achieved. We can, earn the degree and we can get the job and we can find the relationship and have a lot of money in our bank account. But what happens when we reach our mores and we don't feel good enough? Mm-hmm. We still have that feeling inside of like, but that doesn't feel like it's good. It doesn't feel like that's happiness or fulfillment. And I think that's true. I've definitely been there and done that. And so what I started to think about is, what if we redefine more? Like, what if we took this inside out approach, not the outside in approach that we're taught by societal messages? And so what that means is like, what if my more was about focusing on more confidence and more bravery and more boldness and more risks and more connection and mindfulness and all of that good stuff. And what I think happens is when we focus on those mores, sort of the more intrinsic mores, really naturally and again, beautifully, we will achieve. Because if I feel good on the inside, I'm going to want to share that good. If I'm shining with lots of joy and happiness and I have peace with myself, I'm going to just naturally like shine and like be my best self and achieve all of what I want in my life. But it's not about proving my worth. It's now about just living out my worth. And so I think the more I really wanted to flip the script on the more. And then if you look at it really practically, if you want more of anything, there has to be a process of letting go of the things that are holding you back. There has to be a less of something. Like if I want more happiness, I'm going to have to let go and find ways to really not focus so much on the sadness, the pain, the depression. If I want more mindfulness, I'm going to have to let go of those distractions. If I want more power, I'm going to have to let go and have much less of the insecurities and the obstacles holding me back. So I really wanted to go back and forth between those ideas.
And you did a beautiful job in saying like, if you want more happiness, then would you be willing to let go of, all the lists that you have written? And I think it is so important because I think there is a hole sometime of I want something and I'm not letting it go. even if it's to our detriment, as if we get fixated in holding on to something. I remember the same thing you said, where I experienced wanting specific things and I got them. Like I wanted, to have my own business and my own home and be married and, do all of that, the white picket fence. And, obviously those were the things that I was supposed to have. And I got them, and a couple of years even earlier than what I had declared. And like you said, I just was like, all right, I got it. I'm not happy. Now what?
Yeah.
The now what keeps coming back. But the other side of it was also not willing to let go of a lot of the like victimized positions that I had or things that were inside. So the two kept bashing each other. It's like there's no way of releasing and letting go unless you release and let it go. And some of the way that I was looking at your book is it's pushing that in front of you, which is, okay, if you're really, this is where you want to be, are you willing to let go of the other side? And you have to make that choice. And the way that the practices that are in the book shows up, they also, you define in each one of these pieces where it could be defined for ourselves, like happiness. Like, let's define happiness. Let's define authenticity. What is it that you're really, really wanting, and what are you willing to kind of like have less or let go? So can you share about how you define happiness?
Oh, yeah. It could be many things. I think happiness is really about, I actually unpack it a little bit differently in the book, really going a little bit deeper into joy, because I think happiness again could be external, like you feel good, that's happiness, or you get what you want, or it's just like that feeling inside of like everything's good, everything makes sense, I have a smile on my face, I have some energy. And I think if we just take happiness to that next level, it's really about joy. Like it takes it to that deeper, like that feeling when your heart is full and it's sort of like exploding. And I talk about joy in terms of that practice, like you said, actually not waiting for it. So it's not on the outside, like, oh, I'm happy when I get the car, I'm happy when I get the relationship, I'm happy when I have X amount of dollars in my account. But joy is like something that it's that inside out experience. So joy is something that I can create with awareness. What does joy mean to me? Intentionality. What do I have to do to create my joy? And I think it's definitely taking it, let's say it's leveling up on happiness. And I think that as much as I want to define happiness, whatever that means to me or whatever that means to you, I also flip the script on those definitions to what is it not? So I know I'm happy when I'm creating, and I also know I'm not so happy when I'm stagnant and bored. Even resting is hard for me. It's like I experienced this yesterday. It's like, oh, I know what's good for me, but I really, I don't love it. I love when I'm creating. And so I think it is what I say about all of these words in the book, but I also wanted to encourage the readers to really like read what I'm saying and absorb it, but make it your own, because we all define happiness and joy and all these other beautiful words in different ways. So just being able to like make it customized and unique, and what does it mean to you, but also what is it not?
Can you share, like, stop buying happiness, stop seeking happiness?
Yeah, because I've done it all. Stop begging people for your happiness. It doesn't work. But I think that that's part of the awareness. You have to realize what it is that you are doing for your happiness. And if it works, keep doing it. And if it doesn't, just be willing to make some changes and let go of what is no longer serving you.
And I think happiness comes from both sides, not only from an internal space, but we could be joyous and then something can happen externally in the world that, it impacts us and doesn't make us, when you look at the war, when you're part of something that's happening externally, it affects you. But it's almost like, how do I how do I keep myself internally in a space where I can also deal with the external world? And I work with people who are coming from countries which are a lot of war and famine and this time, and killings. And it's like, well, how can you expect me to be happy when the rest of my people here are getting killed or getting destroyed in somehow? And I've noticed that even from the concept of how do we define happiness, which is if I can be content sometimes with where I am and who I am, then I can lend a hand to people who are not. And even that by itself, the serving of others makes me happy and joyous inside. In the worst scenario, it's still there's this place, because I think sometimes people have the idea that happiness and joy is only in, when you're laughing and partying and, it's all like, positive sense. I'm adding to it that even in the worst scenario of the outside world, however it is, there is a part of us which I define that can be content and in gratitude and holding the love and compassion for people. And maybe for me, that also creates happiness. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I really love that. I have a couple of things to say. First of all, I think that we are unfortunately programmed to be happy all the time, and that's completely unrealistic. So there's no happy all the time. There is no instant happiness. Like, I feel like the best way for me to describe happiness and joy and feeling good is that it really comes in surprising ways, and it doesn't last. And no feeling does. Like, could you imagine being happy all the time? It's like being in a warm climate. It's warm all the time, and you get used to it, and you also become complacent with it, right? Like, well, this is just the way it is. You stop noticing that it's nice and sunny and warm. I think that the contrast of life and the variation is what helps us reappreciate happiness as it comes and goes. So it's not instant, and it definitely isn't constant. And I just feel like the more open we are, I think, to life, and like trying, like you said, trying to see the good in a situation, even if it doesn't seem that good. I think we have to work a little harder in those situations and dig a little deeper. But I think that it can surprise you and delight you. And I think that's sort of joy in and of itself. Like, a lot of life, if we're honest, is not happy. It's boring. And it's hard, and it's challenging, and it's confusing. And I think that's a reasonable expectation. And then when happiness comes along, or, a surprise, or, act of gratitude, or like you said, we find someone to help, and that feels so good, that act of altruism, then I think it's this life bonus, I call it. So I think that I'm really learning to really, accept and embrace all the feelings as they come, but also know they're like waves. Like, there's a beginning, middle, end, and they come and go, and just to really try to find value in all of the feelings.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You also talk about confidence, more confidence and less doubt. I've noticed by kind of, let's say, aging, and I don't mean aging by like old aging, I mean just growing up. There's a part of us that starts at one point, confidence might be in what we do. Like, we try things, we know how to do them, and we're confident in doing one thing. And then as I've aged, it's almost like confident about listening to yourself and knowing what you want. And that, being confident in you. Versus, like, as a teenager or a young adult, it's more about, let me be confident about what I do, but I really want to be approved and validated from my world. So, they kind of tell me what I should be confident about. And I've noticed as I've grown up, that has changed a little bit beyond confidence and skills. It now has become more like, I'm confident about what I say I want, and that's cool. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, that's another example I think of outside in, because you're right. As we grow, we're confident in our skill set. And when we can do something, we get the attention, the affirmation, that stamp of approval. And that's a good thing. Like that's one version of confidence. And as we grow, it can become a little bit more of the inside work, the inside job of like, now I'm confident in my identity, in my voice, in my like wisdom and intuition that's coming in. And I think it's not really an either or. I think it's a both and, right? And I think like lots of times when I'm working with particularly younger girls, but also older girls, like we really start to look at confidence as an ability to be brave and take risks. Like, can confidence come from your mistakes? Can confidence come from, those bad days where you made a series of unhealthy choices? Can you gain confidence in those lessons too, not just in the shiny examples of confidence, like, yeah, I succeeded, I got the A, or I made the team, or I got the job, and like again, those are great, but confidence in that deeper sense, it's like how do you do when life is uncomfortable, or when things are difficult, or when you're making those mistakes, or when you don't want to step out of your comfort zone, but you do? Can we find confidence in the deeper sense? And I think yes, yes, and yes. And that's kind of the magic.
Made for More, a fresh start approach to a bolder, brighter you. Lindsay Sealey, it's a fun book, Lindsay. You really created a fun book.
Thank
It's not
you.
just that it has a lot of information, and it has the essence of really looking at and not only definition of items, but also presenting ways where each person can really reflect. But the design of it is fun. Like you enjoy. Like at one point,
Thank you.
their pages, it's like, to be honest with you, and then it has a writing, and so you've really done a great job of when you keep saying it's boring. I could see that this book is not boring because it's set up
Oh,
in a way that it captures you, and then it kind of like throws you into the next conversation in such a fun way. So the next conversation, which I love, is authenticity. And I think that, and it was interesting because you said more authenticity, less conformity. And it was interesting to bring those two together, because I had not necessarily brought those two together. That when I thought about authenticity, I wasn't really thinking about that. But when you presented it that way, I'm like, yeah, like where is it that we lose our authenticity? A lot of times it is because we want to conform with others. And then maybe sometimes we've done this so long that it's just become such an automatic place that we're not noticing that we're losing who we are. And then finding the voice inside, and then choosing how to be with the outside world, but at least finding it first. Like being authentic to yourself, I think, is the first step. Then the next step is, okay, how am I going to be all, how am I going to live that authenticity to the world? That's how it landed on me. So share a little bit about that.
Sure. So I think authenticity really begins with our ability to tell ourselves the truth and to stand in truth. And that sounds so easy, like just tell the truth. But I think it's incredibly hard. It's hard to face ourselves as our true selves. And I think we spend a lot of time creating a persona, or that good girl image. Or, for me, it was always about being perfect, not making mistakes, and always appearing like I had it all together, even if I was crumbling on the inside. So I think it's really hard to like be that real and raw with yourself. But I think it's also important that we understand, as humans, we're a lot of good stuff and bad stuff. I have so many positive qualities, and I am more than happy to share with you all of my negative qualities. Now, I don't necessarily lead with the flaws, and it takes time to get to know me, to get the all of me. But I think it's so important. Like, if nothing else, I tell young women, just start to write in your journal, who are you really? who are you today? And it's not to say I want that to be a place of self-judgment and self-deprecation, but just truth. Like there are things that you're not so happy about, and it's great to meet yourself where you're at and to commit to trying to improve in those areas and try to become a little bit better each and every day in that really amazing, like self-kind and self-compassionate way, right? So we're meeting ourselves where we're at in that truth, and we're committing to growing. I think it gets harder in the presence of others, especially when we've always been a certain way or there's expectations. But I think that even just step by stepping your way through, like becoming a little bit more authentic all of the time is such a good practice. So it might be sharing your opinion or your ideas, even though you know that the group would not agree with you, or it's maybe sharing a little bit about, some of your secrets or some of your shames, or, when you make a mistake. I always feel like when I make a mistake, I don't want to tell anyone. Like, I just want to figure it out and then keep going and like keep the persona up and the smile on. And then I think, what if I did it differently? What if I just said like, hey, yesterday I got a speeding ticket. Sometimes I post this stuff on social media just because I just want to share. And it's amazing what happens, how many people understand and get it. And I think feel that you've given them permission to also share their mistakes and their flaws and their fears. And I think authenticity is exactly that. It's opening the idea to a real connection instead of, a superficial relationship, or a relationship that's really based on trying to like keep up an image that's not necessarily true. And it's particularly hard on social media because I think that's exactly what everyone does. They're trying to show an image, and it's, my best self and the highlight reel, but slowly I'm seeing a shift with, no filters, or being a little bit more honest and a little bit more vulnerable, sharing like I said, the positive stuff and the stuff that we want to hide from other people. It's hard. It's very hard.
As you were talking, I noticed that there's also this part of us where if we're authentic to ourselves, I can say what I have naturally a gift and what I'm good at, and what are naturally I'm not that great at, but however I learned and I gained the skills. And there are things that I'm just not naturally good at, and I'm not good at it even when I learned the skills. And to be honest with you, I'm not even interested in those skills. So sometimes it's like when I'm authentic to myself, I'm like, all right, I just don't want to do this. And I can, create a team to do this with somebody else, or hire somebody else to do this part. I've noticed that being authentic and realistic with myself, sometimes it really has helped in not, kind of like putting myself down about why am I not good at this? I should be, and, pushing myself and like, and I'm still not good at this. There are things that I'm just not going to be good at. And I think even coming authentically okay with that, the things that I'm great at, and there are things that are just not me. And I think that part of being honest with ourselves and having a realistic view without any blame or judgment, but a realistic view of, maybe if I'm really wanting to do this piece, maybe I should come and connect with someone else, or hire someone else, or all of that. I've done that with physical body concepts like exercises and this and that. Like if you leave it up to me, I'm just not going to do it. And it doesn't matter how many trainers I've gotten. I got this. Like I know, I have all the knowledge. Okay, I'm going to do this. I don't. And it was at one point, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be okay that I don't. And I'm just going to hire a trainer to do it with. Because I'm going to come to this place of that's just not my forte. Why am I blaming myself for not doing that? Versus just, okay, it's okay that this is not my, the best side of me.
That's so interesting. And I think that's been coming up with me a lot too. It's like, in my head, I'm going to be an amazing piano player, and I'm fantastic at social media, and I can, create all these courses. And at the end of the day, I've been asking myself, like, do I really even want to do those things? And if I haven't, I know myself very well. If I haven't done it by now, I think that means I don't really want to. I'm not that interested. And so I liked what you said about either like you let it go, like let go of the judgment, but also let go of this ideal that you're hanging on to that's probably taking a lot of your brain space and energy, and let go of the judgment and just focus on the things that you love, that you're interested in, that come more naturally to you. And it's not to say we can't challenge ourselves with some difficulty, but I just feel like if we haven't done it, if we're not like excited about it, if it's not that hell yes, then we probably don't want to. And that's okay. That's a part of the authentic piece, right? Just this is just not me right now, and that's okay. And on we go. We probably waste a lot of time feeling, oh, I probably should, but I don't really want to. What's wrong with me? Why haven't I done it? And I think that's important. And I also was going to add, as I grow and step into my like made for more and the things that are most important to me, I have learned a tremendous lesson in not caring what people think. Because I think a lot of my life is like, well, what will people think if I don't do that? What will people think if I decide to shift lanes or shift gears? What will people think if I'm not this kind of person anymore? And I was always so worried. And now I just don't care, because at the end of the day, I hope that I'm going to choose me over what other people think of me. And I think that's a confidence builder. And it's also another step closer to authenticity.
Yes. It was a time where I wanted to be an administrator. I wanted my own company, and I created companies, and I created this and that. And it's interesting that at one point it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want administration. That's
Right.
not my forte. I don't like it anymore. And it's interesting because people come to me, it's like, let's do this and let's create this business. And you've done it before. And I'm like, I don't want to. And
It's so
being,
true.
it's, it's that part of, I should, because that's what I've done before. So it's shifting from, the shouldism to like, what gets me going? And I think that's part of what I'm also sensing with your book is coming to terms with not only what the definitions are, but what is that definition for me, as you said very beautifully. You talk about more progress and less perfection, more mindfulness, less distraction, kind of more connection versus separation. And you talked about more power and less fear. Let's talk about the less fear part. And from your perspective, how do you work with fear so that it kind of like calms down? So, it's like this catch-22. Do I gain my power and automatically fears go away? Or is it a way that I'm being with fear that I entice my power to come up?
Oh, so interesting. Well, I think a lot of new projects, new ideas, new opportunities for me, I'm afraid, like from the beginning. Like I always just acknowledged my fear. I think I've probably learned to befriend my fear. And I do like the phrase of, feel the fear and do it anyways. But also, I want to be like self-compassionate with myself. Like it's scary. So just to feel the fear and keep going is a little bit difficult and challenging. But I think that it's okay to feel afraid, and it's okay to like spend some time with, well, why am I afraid? Like, what exactly am I afraid of? Like, I think my fear is often twofold. Like, I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of not doing a good job, an excellent job. Like, it has to be like I want to knock it out of the park every time. So I'm afraid of failing. And if I fail, like, what will people think of me? So there's a lot wrapped up in the failure piece. And this is the interesting part, I'm also afraid of succeeding. And I think I touch on this in power because when we succeed, there is also now an expectation. So if I give a really great presentation, I am so happy. But right away, as if people say, that was amazing, that was the best presentation ever, I don't feel like good about that, because now I feel like, whoa, now the bar is set high. I have to be this good every presentation. And there's been presentations where I've canceled or panicked because I'm not on. I know it. This isn't going to be perfect. It's just going to be 8 out of 10. And to me is failure. And so I think there's a lot of pressure to succeed and keep succeeding. And I think also when it comes, especially when it comes to what people think of us, it's hard to do well and to feel that sense of like confidence and strength and power and to really own it, because we're afraid that people will think we're, too good, conceited, too big for our britches, whatever the expression is. Like, and I think that that's really scary for a lot of us, like to actually like feel like that experience of like, I worked hard and I did really great at whatever it is. And I want to like stand in the light. I want to share it with everyone because I'm so proud of myself. But what will people think of that? So then we sort of like pull back and then we want to like hide and be like, oh, well, it was okay. But like, tell me about you. And we like sort of give our power away, so to speak. So I think that I'm equally afraid of both the failure and the success. So I do have a tendency to like accept the fear and to like really, reflect on what it is that I'm afraid of and try to work my way through it. But I do typically just keep going. Like, it's like, I just keep stepping and sort of, I do like the philosophy of do it anyway, because that is how we grow, even though it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be afraid of both the failure or the success. But I think that I've just learned like you do it and then you, reflect on the process, and then you typically are motivated to keep going. But I it's very rare that fear stops me, but it definitely challenges me.
I've noticed that based on the same thought process that you're sharing, I took on this concept, and then I think I went a little bit too far with it, which it's as if I'm focusing so much on what I have to do in order to move forward that is as if the fear in the background hits my body. And so I get sometimes dizzy and I get, my body gets uncomfortable. And I'm so focused on moving forward that I forget that maybe I should just stop and listen to the emotion a little bit too. And I've noticed that on a subconscious level, I've said this to myself so much. It's like, okay, just, I know you're afraid. I know you're anxious, but just focus, take a deep breath and go. And then my body's like, no, like I'm going to make you dizzy if you just don't listen to me for a minute. And I've really noticed that. So, and then it's funny is like, I'm so surprised. Like, I don't understand how come I'm dizzy. I don't understand what's going on. And then I panic myself for not understanding what's going on. And at one point I'm like, it's just fear and anxiety sharing with me that, hold on a minute, acknowledge me and then move on versus avoid me at all costs and move on. I don't know if you've ever had that experience.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. So I think there is definitely a distinction between, our thoughts, like I think I can, or, I'm not going to worry about it, or I'm going to keep going, and our body, right? And I think that your body and the response that you had is really your body saying, wait a second, I need you to pay attention to me. I need you to like maybe slow down, ground yourself, take some deep breaths, like really like notice what's happening physically. And once you take care of your body's needs, I think then your brain is obviously going to think clearer and be able to cope better. But I think that that's so true. We can almost in a way get a little bit too far ahead of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like, oh no, I'm in charge of my thoughts and I'll just keep going and it's okay. And like we can power through, which I am a big fan of. But I think it also has to be from that really grounded sense of like, but here I am with myself. And I'm taking care of my needs and I'm listening to my body and nurturing my body. And then I can keep going just stronger and better and more confidently. But I think There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and I think that's really appropriate. It's like your body is so smart and amazing, and it's going to tell you, simply whether you're hungry or thirsty, and also whether you're afraid or stressed and anxious or just not doing okay. And as we grow, I think we hopefully learn to pay more attention. And you're right, that is literally feeling the fear. But it's not letting it stop you. It's just like you're feeling it as a way of going through it, and it's uncomfortable, and then it's not. And there's a release, and then you're in a stronger position.
Very much. Yeah. It's like I've noticed that sometimes I've dissociated and then my body does its own thing, which is, I don't think so. Like, you're not going anywhere until you take care of my body, or I'm just going to, move along with you because I am you. So I'm going to move along with you. So you better pay attention to me, because I think that in that way that you automatically are losing power. So, but however, being with the emotion and then moving to the next level is like, okay, now you can experience your power because you've already taken care of yourself in that way.
It's so true. And you're supposed to be working together, but you're right. We dissociate, we escape, we avoid, we push down, we anesthetize, and your body will just get like louder and give you more signs until you actually give it what it needs, which is
right. So when you decided to work with girls, is that Growing Strong Girls and Rooted? Why girls? Why have you chosen to work with girls?
Well, I started teaching. I was teaching one-on-one with boys and girls, all ages and stages. And I think I was probably the most concerned with the girls. And it's not to say I don't have concerns about boys. And it's not to say I do work with some boys and young men. So I've opened up my business, but I just feel like with girls, I definitely notice an obvious pattern of how confident and authentic and amazing they knew they were until about age 8 or 9. And then there was a drastic shift. So these girls that were so confident were suddenly shyer and more hesitant and less talkative. And, it was a lot of not telling me their opinions and ideas, but it was asking me if I felt their opinions and ideas were good enough. And I started to notice that. So there was definite cause for concern. And at the same time, in the concern and in these early years of change, I really found my calling, or I think my passion for being able to just talk to them. We just talked about their feelings and their thoughts and their experiences. And on a really deep psychological level, I am sure that I was talking to them in the ways that I needed to be talked to, but that wasn't available to me. And so I feel like that was like me giving purpose to some of my early pain. Like, well, no one asked me about my feelings. I didn't really get a chance to have a conversation with someone in a really safe space. And I didn't have someone who created that space that allowed me to just be my true self. And so I felt it was like a great full circle moment to me where I could notice these changes and I could just be there for them and talk to them and ask them questions and be able to help them and support them and guide them and validate them and see them for who they were and coach and champion them. And I think that became something that was incredibly rewarding to me. And I think I just probably was naturally good at it. And it just interested me. And honestly, that interest hasn't faded. That's how much I love it. I love being that person for them. And I love talking to them. And I love just really trying to like get to know them and yeah, give them that time that they need and the attention, the really positive attention that they crave, and help them see the goodness in themselves, because I think that gets lost.
I see this so much that you're right, around age 8 all the way, let's say, to 15, 16 are very important age where developmentally there is a lot of doubt and finding who I am and, shifting from one aspect to another. And that's where a lot of doubt comes. And it's so important to intervene. And sometimes I've looked at that age and, you know, you can see the worst in humanity come up around, not high school, but junior high. Like the things that kids do to each other around then. It's almost like watching human being experience all sides of itself. And that's where we experience a lot of the bullying toward each other and, demeaning, and a lot of things happen at that time. And I think it's so important to intervene with, like what you say and what you're doing, to come in and guide the person into a place of really seeing themselves and honoring themselves and finding the tools in how to be with themselves. So that it's amazing what you do in the age group that you're doing. I think it's beautiful. It's really needed, and it's really needed also in schools, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that if I could have my dreams come true, it's like all girls would have someone like me or something in the school, programs in the school, so that they at a very early age could start understanding who they are and what their uniqueness is and what their authentic self is and what happiness means to them and how they want to grow and how they can care for themselves and listen to their body and support themselves. And if you think about it, if every little girl had that resource and had those really engaging conversations and felt seen, heard, valued, and validated, bullying wouldn't exist. Yes. It wouldn't happen at all. So we want all girls to feel good about themselves. And when they feel good, they do good things in this world. And so I know that's a big dream. It's a big ask, but I think that is what's required. And if I just work with one girl at a time, but to me, something is better than nothing. And that's how change happens, positive change.
Yes, absolutely. Made for More. A fresh start approach to bolder, brighter you by Lindsay Sealey. Lindsay, anything we haven't shared that you really want people to know?
I just feel like we get so caught up in the stress of life and the overwhelm and the to-dos, and we're all just running around as quickly as possible and frenetically as possible. And I think that that's what we need to do to survive each day. But I would just encourage everyone to take time to step back from the craziness and to really give it some deep thought and consideration of, what does more mean to you? Because I think we're so much more than the to-dos and the checklists and, proving our worth and achieving and again, having money in the bank and achieving success in some way. But I think there's a more in all of us. And I can't tell anyone what that is. It's a very individual experience, but I do believe that there's more to us than the worries and the fears and the obstacles and self-doubt and insecurity. So I would just, encourage people to explore and to really be active about creating their more.
Beautiful. Where can people find you?
LindsaySealey.com is my website, and they can also follow me on Instagram at Bold New Girls.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time and being with us.
Thank you.
And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.